in sort of a hurry, don't you know? It's a pity, because I've been wanting to meet you for months. You rascal, you. What the hell do you want? Devine struggled to maintain some of his authority, in spite of the very dicey circumstances. Cut to the chase, Okay, good, because I am seriously rushed. Now, you have two very clear choices. 1. I'll have to cut off your penis here and now, put it in your mouth as a convenient gag, and then torture you with little flesh cuts, hundreds of cuts, starting with the face and neck, until you tell me what I need to know. All right so far? Am I being clear? To repeat, choice number 1, painful torture leading inevitably to exsanguination. Devine's head involuntarily leaned back away from the looming madman. His vision was clearing, unfortunately. His eyes, in fact, were wide open. Gary Saniji Murphy? In his apartment? With a hunting knife? Second option! The madman continued to rant in his face. I am going to get the truth from you right now. Then I'll go get my money, wherever you've stashed it. I'll come back and kill you, but nicely. No theatrics. Who knows? You might even manage to escape while I'm gone. That's doubtful, but hope springs eternal. I have to tell you, Michael, that's the option I choose. Mike Devine was clear-headed enough to make the correct choice, too. He told Saniji Murphy where his share of the ransom money was. It was right there in Washington. Gary Saniji Murphy believed him, but then, who could really tell about these things? He was dealing with a police officer, after all. Gary paused at the apartment door on his way out. In his best Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator voice, he said, "I'll be back." Actually, he was feeling exceptionally good about things today. He was solving the goddamn kidnapping himself. He was playing policeman, and it was kind of neat. The plan was going to work, just like he'd always known it would. Cool beans. Chapter 84. I slept restlessly, waking just about every hour on the hour. There was no piano to go pound out on the porch, no Janny and Damon to go wake, only the murderer peacefully sleeping at my side. Only the plan I was there to execute. When the sun finally rose, the hotel kitchen staff fixed us a fancy box lunch to go. They packed a wicker basket with fine wines, French bottled water, expensive gourmet goodies. There were also snorkeling gear, fluffy towels, a striped yellow and white beach umbrella. Everything was already loaded onto a speedboat when we arrived on the dock at just past 8. It took the boat about 30 minutes to get to our island, a beautiful, secluded spot. Paradise regained. We would be out there all alone all day. Other couples from the hotel had their own private islands to visit. A coral reef encircled our beach, stretching out about 70 to 100 yards from shore. The water was the clearest bottle green. When I looked straight down, I could see the texture of the sand on the bottom. I could have counted grains of sand. Angel and warrior fish darted around my legs in small-spirited schools. A smiling pair of 5-foot-long barracuda had followed our boat almost to the shoreline, then lost interest. "What time would you like me to come back?" the boat driver asked. "It's your choice." He was a muscular fisherman, a sailor in his 40s, a happy-go-lucky type. He had shared big fish and other colorful island stories on the way out. He seemed to think nothing of Jesse and my being together. "Oh, I think 2 or 3 o'clock?" I looked for some help from Jesse. "What time should Mr. Richards come back for us?" She was busy laying out beach towels and the rest of our exotic gear. "I think 3 is good." "That sounds great, Mr. Richards." "All right, then. Have fun, you two." He smiled. "You're all alone. I can see my services are no longer required." Mr. Richards saluted us, then hopped back into the boat. He started the engine and soon had vanished from sight. We were all alone on our private island. Don't worry. Be happy. There is something so strange and unreal about lying on a beach towel next to a kidnapper and murderer. I went over and over all of my feelings, plans, the things I knew I had to do. I tried to get control of my confusion and rage. I had loved this woman, who was now such a stranger. I closed my eyes and let the sun relax my muscles. I needed to untense, or this wouldn't work. How could you have murdered the little girl, Jesse? How could you do that? How could you tell so many lies to everybody? Gary Sinigi flew out of nowhere. He came suddenly and with no warning. He had a foot-long hunting knife like the one he'd used in the D.C. ghetto killings. He was arched high overhead, his shadow covering me completely. There was no way he could have gotten onto the island. No way. Alex, you were dreaming, Jesse said. She put a cool hand on my shoulder. She gently touched my cheek with the tips of her fingers. The long, mostly sleepless night, the warm sun and the cooling sea breeze. I had fallen asleep on the beach. I looked up at Jesse. She had been the shadow over my body, not Sinigi. My heart was pounding loudly. Dreams are as powerful as the real world to our nervous systems. How long was I out? I asked. Phew! Just a couple of minutes, baby, she said. Alex, let me hold you. Jessie moved against me on the beach towel. Her breasts brushed my chest. She had taken off her bathing suit top while I slept. Her smooth skin glowed with tanning oil. A thin line of moisture beaded on her upper lip. She couldn't help looking good. I sat up and moved away from Jessie on the towel. I pointed to where a garden of bougainvillea grew, almost to the seawater. Let's walk down along the beach, okay? Let's take a walk. I want to talk to you about a few things. What kind of things? Jessie asked me. She was clearly disappointed that I was putting her off, even for a moment. She'd wanted to make love on the beach. I didn't. Come on. Let's walk and talk a little, I said. This sun feels so good. I pulled Jessie up, and she came along with me somewhat reluctantly. She didn't bother to put her top back on. We walked along the shoreline with our feet in the clear, calm water. We weren't touching now, but we were only inches apart. It was so strange and unreal. It was one of the worst moments of my life, if not the worst. You're being so serious, Alex. We were going to have fun, remember? Are we having fun yet? I know what you did, Jessie. It's taken a while, but I finally pulled it together, I told her. I know that you took Maggie Rose Dunn from Sinigi. I know that you killed her. Chapter 85. I want to talk about all of it. I don't have a wire on me, Jessie. Obviously. She half smiled at that. Always the perfect actress. I can see you don't, she said. My heart was booming at a tremendous rate. Tell me what happened. Just tell me why, Jessie. Tell me what I spent almost 2 years trying to find out, and you knew all the time. Tell me your side of this. Jessie's mask, which was always her perfectly beautiful smile, had finally disappeared. She sounded resigned. All right, Alex. I'll tell you some of what you want to know. But you just wouldn't leave alone. We continued to walk, and Jessie finally told me the truth. How did it happen? Well, in the beginning, we were just doing our job. I swear that's true. We were babysitting the secretary's family. Gerald Goldberg wasn't used to getting threats. The Colombians made a threat against him. He acted like the civilian that he is. He overreacted. He demanded Secret Service protection for his entire family. That's how it all began, with a surveillance detail that none of us thought was necessary. So you assigned 2 lightweight agents. 2 friends, actually. Not lightweights at all. We figured the detail would be a boondoggle. Then Mike Devine noticed that one of the teachers, a math teacher named Gary Sinigi, had made a couple of passes by the Goldberg house. At first we thought he had a crush on the boy. Devine and Shakely thought he might be a pederast. Nothing much more than that. We had to check him out anyway. It was in the original logs that Devine and Shakely kept. One of them followed Gary Sinigi? A couple of times, yes. To a couple of places. We weren't really concerned at that point, but we were following through. One night, Charlie Chakley tailed him into Southeast. We didn't connect Senigi to the murders there, especially since the story never made any splash in the papers. Just more inner-city murders, you know? Yeah, I do know. When did you suspect something else about Gary Senigi? We didn't suspect a kidnapping until he actually picked up the two kids. 2 days before that, Charlie Chakley had followed him out to the farm in Maryland. Charlie didn't suspect a kidnapping at the time. No reason to. But he knew where the farm was located now. Mike Devine called me from the school when it all came crashing down. They wanted to go after Senigi then. That's when it struck me about taking the ransom ourselves. I don't know for sure. Maybe I thought of it before. It was so easy, Alex. 3 or 4 days and it would be over. Nobody would be hurt. Not any more than they'd already been hurt. We'd have the ransom money. Millions. The way Jessie spoke about the kidnapping plot so casually was scary. She downplayed it, but it had been her idea. Not Devine's or Chakley's idea. Jessie's. She was the mastermind. What about the children? I asked. What about Maggie Rose and Michael? They'd already been kidnapped. We couldn't stop what had already happened. We staked out the farm in Maryland. We were confident that nothing could happen to the kids. He was a math teacher. We didn't think he'd hurt them. We thought he was nothing but an amateur. We were completely in control. He buried them in a box, Jessie, and Michael Goldberg died. Jessie stared out to sea. She nodded slowly. Yes, the little boy died. That changed everything, Alex. Forever. I don't know if we could have prevented it. We moved in and took Maggie Rose then. We made our own kidnap demands. The whole plan changed. The two of us continued to walk along the edge of the shimmering water. If anyone had seen us, they probably would have thought we were lovers, having a serious talk about our relationship. The second half of that was true enough. Jessie finally looked at me. I want to tell you how it was between us, Alex. My side of things. It's not what you think. I had no words for her. It felt as if I was standing on the dark side of the moon again and about to explode. My mind was screaming. I let Jessie go on. Let her talk. It didn't really matter now. When it started, down in Florida, I needed to know whatever you could find out. I wanted a connection inside the D.C. police. You were supposed to be a good cop. You were also your own man. So you used me to watch your flanks. You chose me to hand over the ransom. You couldn't trust the Bureau. Always the professional, Jessie. I knew you wouldn't do anything to endanger the little girl. I knew you'd deliver the ransom. The complications started after we got back from Miami. I don't know exactly when. I swear this is the truth. I felt numb and hollow inside as I listened to her. I was dripping with perspiration, and not because of the beating sun. I wondered if Jessie had brought a gun to the island. Always the professional, I reminded myself. For what it's worth now, I fell in love with you, Alex. I did. You were so many of the things I'd given up looking for. Warm and decent, loving, understanding. Damon and Janelle touched me. When I was with you, I felt whole again. I was a little dizzy and nauseated. It was exactly the way I'd felt for about a year after Maria died. For what it's worth, I fell in love with you too, Jessie. I tried not to, but I did. I just couldn't have imagined anybody lying to me the way you did. Lying and deceiving. I still can't believe all the lies. What about Mike Devine? I asked. Jessie shrugged her shoulders. That was her only answer. You committed the perfect crime. A masterpiece, I told her then. You created the master crime that Gary Senigi always wanted to commit. Jessie peered into my eyes, but she seemed to be looking right through me. There was just one more piece to the puzzle now. One last thing that I had to know. One unthinkable detail. What really happened to the little girl? What did you or Devine and Chakley do with Maggie Rose? Jesse